My name is Samuel Ba, and I am the moderator for this session. The topic for the debate is the type of educational system we want for our children. Of course, on the high table, I have about 5 participants who will be sharing their views on the topic. I want to start with the student sitting next to me. Can you start by telling us your name?
Okay. Good afternoon to you all. My name is Kadikole, a representative of St. Teresa's Upper Basic School.
Thank you very much, Karikoli. The debate is the type of educational system we want as a country for our children, you and your colleagues. Can you tell us what do you want to see in the educational system?
I like to see a lot, but before going further, I would like to say the problems we are facing as students. As a student, I feel very bad when I come into the school and see my fellow students being discouraged from choosing their career they want. Some of the students are very good in some subjects. For example, there are students that are very good in technical drawing, but their parents want them to do science and become doctors, and they are not very good in it. So it will lead them to failure in life. Secondly, when you enter the school campus, the school premises, the classrooms are not that very large, and we have 58 students minimum in a class. Learning is not effective there because the classrooms are very crowded and noisy. Thirdly, the school toilets. We have 3 toilets for the girls and 3 toilets for the boys. In a population of 3,000, more than 3,000 students in the school campus, it's not hygienic. As a student, I would like to see education to be the #1 priority in the Gambia. I would like the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education and the government, respectively, to make a stop to the number of students we have in a classroom. If that cannot be possible, then the classroom have to be enlarged. The school toilets need to be built properly in a hygienic manner. And the textbooks we need textbooks in order to study at home. They should provide this textbook for us and make learning more effective. As future leaders of tomorrow, we need to start now. I thank you all for your kind attention.
Thank you. Can we put our hands together once more for her, Kadikoli? Thank you very much, Kadikoli, for talking about some of those issues, the issues of expansion and some facilities, providing facilities for the school. Thank you very much. Can you tell us what your name is?
My name is Fatma Sujalo, a student from St. Joseph Basic Cycle School. And I want the Ministry of Education to supply books for us to have a better study at home. And also, some students in school are not good in education system, but they are good. They have talents. So I want the Ministry of Education to help them to showcase their talent. Thank you.
I am an old educationalist. I have been in the system for almost 30 years. I rose from the position of unqualified teacher to a principal education officer. So virtually, I have gone through the system. I think the first consideration that we should think of is that the debate on the type of education we need for our children should be inclusive. Inclusive in the sense that it should be across the board. Children, parents, farmers, doctors, specialists, everybody should have a share in the type of education we want for this country. Also, I think as a country, we are not an island. We are linked to other countries or in the larger world. We are part of the world. So if we are to design any system for our country, it has to be in line with the international community. You cannot develop or build a system that is at odds with the international community. So our educational system should thoroughly look at what is best in terms of being able to use our people to grow from level 1 to the highest level in terms of moving from one place to another in the world. I also think that there are variations in terms of academic standards. When we are developing a system, we must not think of the bright ones all the time. These young girls have just said it. There are people who have different talents, those who are academically sound and those who are good at using their hands, and some are good at using their body. So if you are developing a system, you have to consider all those aspects as to who should do what or who is able to do what. In other words, you should be able to give a space to all those people who should go through the system to be able to showcase their talent. Not only those who can write properly, or those who can do drama, or those who can sing, or those who can draw, or those who can do technical education. I think it should be inclusive, because we have even need to consider people with learning difficulties, the handicaps, physically disabled. Now, these are people who are part and parcel of our country, and we should make space for them. We should create space for them. So in creating learning or a system for the system should be inclusive and should be geared towards developing individuals in their own way, right? Also, I think in these days of ours, technology is high on the agenda. Right? If we cannot put or we cannot introduce technological education in our system, we will be failing our young ones. Because whether we learn it here, it's everywhere in the world. So education without technology as part of the system, you will be failing the whole system. Finally, I think also moral education is essential. When you look at schools now, you see some guys covering their heads. Sometimes schools or certain schools wouldn't allow it. But this has something to do with morals, social affairs or social concepts. So you need to look at those issues. Do you want to develop a system that would exclude those moral issues, religious issues? I hope not. I think we need to look at those things so that they are part and parcel of our education system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yabo. He has made mention of very, very key issues such as moral education, aligning our education system with international standards. And also, he also talked about inclusiveness. Thank you very much, Mr. Yabo. Mr. Omar Ndour, another veteran educationist. Can you tell us what you would like to see by 2030 when the current education policy would have phased out? Thank you.
First of all, education should prepare the individual to be very productive in society. What I mean by that is the person has to be a relevant asset to society. The type of education I want us to emphasize is an education for citizenship. Somebody has talked about inclusive education and moral education. But I think if education is geared towards national development, you cannot have national development in the absence of discipline, in the absence of responsibility, and so on and so forth. And these things we can acquire. And I would want to encourage the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. I know we have social and environmental studies, but if we can introduce or bring back civics, which provides civic education to our children, it is going to help and carve out a better way in which schools or children in schools behave. Another area I want us to emphasize is the area of skills education. If we are talking about development, we cannot do it in the absence, as somebody said, of technology. When we talk about technology, I'm not referring to only industries. There are many ways that we can help our kids to acquire skills. For example, I would advocate that students have freedom to select those subjects that they feel they are strong in, rather than subjects being prescribed for them. And I've always advocated that when we come to core subjects, we talk about English, mathematics, science, SES. Let us go beyond that. There are students who are very skilled in art and crafts, who are very skilled in metal work. Let us leave it open. Let all those subjects appear as core subjects so that the child would go for those, the student will go for those areas in which they are strong in. And I would want to see an education where we would include, particularly in the upper basic and senior secondary schools, subjects like tailoring, fishing. Let us identify those areas where we are pointing to as areas of national development. And we inject that into our curriculum. How about hairdressing? Now, these are things that we need to really look at. And I think we must also go beyond in 2030, beyond 2030. Let us start thinking beyond the norm. Let us start thinking about even flexi schooling. Let us think about homeschooling. It is not only in the classroom that you can get an education, somebody said. And in the presentation today, we have heard of the daras, the madrasas. For me, they are all providing an education. So as far as I'm concerned, I think we need to open up. We need to open up and bring about new ideas as far as education is concerned. So far.
On my far right, gentleman, can you tell us your name and add your voice to the debate?
I think many of you remember me. I'm claiming I'm a Fulani from somewhere around here. So even if I'm outside now, I will like to say what I would like to see the education system for my children. So in order to be more sensible, instead of saying that the children of Gambia, let me put it what the school system would look like to provide quality education for life. Learning is a day-to-day activity. You can learn from anywhere. What matters is what do you learn at school or somewhere where you make learning. So what I wanted to focus a good education system, a system which can offer you something to learn rather than sitting in school. Let's say at grade 3, the student able to read and write fluently. That's the system which is needed to provide a student to learn something at grade 3 so that they can continue to further education. If they don't learn reading and writing at grade 3, then there's no motivation to go to grade 4 or grade 5, and the more difficult for them to go. So the system should be able to provide a quality education at early grade so that it motivates and encourages on education beyond the basic education. The second scenario I would like to emphasize is a system have to develop, a colleague said already here, a kind of inclusive education system, which means in literal terms a system which acknowledge diversities, which acknowledge diversity not in terms of language or ethnic group, also in the socioeconomic status. There's a status of you inherited from a family member, and unless you understand that one, to form a common goal, the education system is going to be difficult. We heard from Alpha yesterday when one parent sends the child to school with uniform, the other partner cannot afford in the Africa to send without uniform. So we have to build as a system understanding of each other, that kind of diversity, and so that everybody is considering school is a learning place rather than a show-up place or showing other social or economic status at school level. The third one is always like education for meaning. When you say you learn something at early grades for literacy, numeracy, which will help you for social understanding, for political engagement, or for health reason to know what you need at different lifestyle of development. But at the end, you have to be able to translate the learning to economic development, which is a key here, which, like already mentioned here, is what it requires to have a development. You have to know a right education policy which leads to your economic development situation. For example, in the Gambia, tourism is one of the attractions in the contributing to the economy, but I don't think the education system now is catering to develop skills which fit to this tourism system. Maybe, I don't know how you define the tourism in this case. Let's say the hotel services. Do the education system provide a skill for people to provide a good customer services at the hotel level and attract more tourism to come and to consider a place where they can relax and enjoy and they come over? Take fishing. We are next to the ocean. If you consider fishing as one of sources of income, do we have an expertise in the area? We have a skill in to attract international fishers to come and invest here and have like high-level income generation in that areas. So the education system should be able to consider the socio-economic setting of the country in the fit to that one, instead of having a formal, traditional education system, as you said, math, science, only. It should be also catered at the different level of education which fit to the economy as well. So I should stop here and I will give to my colleague.
Thank you. So I'm Alison Grimsland. I want to speak a little bit more generally as well. I think when you know, education is a shared experience. Students sit in a classroom together, there's a teacher. We see here there's many people involved in that experience. But it's also a very individual experience. So when you hear from students like we heard from today, you see potential. And that is one of the most beautiful things, is to see potential in a student. You see that seed rooting. But so the ideal system would be able to nourish that potential in every single student. So every single child in the Gambia would be able to realize their full potential. That means emotionally, socially, cognitively, as a citizen of the Gambia, kind of one Gambia. And it's only then that we'll be able to realize the full potential of the Gambia. So that means, what does that take? That means a system that is inclusive. It means a system that has tools for teachers to push themselves and to push their students in the classroom. It means a safe space for children to learn, regardless of what their background is, of their socioeconomic status. It means that that's a right for all of those children. Without that, it's impossible for the Gambia to realize its full potential, because it'll take all of those pieces. Like my colleague said, it also means a diverse pathway. So there could be many different routes. The foundation, of course, is these key skills like literacy and numeracy. It's like a house. This is the foundation. Then you start to build in the key pieces to build up. Those are the more specialized areas. And then you have the roof. So this is the whole, like as you get more specialized and move through the system. But even if students are going and learning very technical skills, very specialized, for example, learning construction or something like that, it doesn't matter if they're doing that or learning to be doctors. At the base of it, there needs to be critical thinking taught to all of the students. Why is that? It's important for life skills in general, but it's also important because the world of work is changing. So we couldn't have predicted the kind of high rates of mobile telephone use, for example. Students weren't learning to be trained for those jobs 40 years ago, which means we also can't predict the jobs that are going to be coming up in the future. But we can predict that we'll need critical skills for our students who are our future workers in the economy to be able to adapt, to find solutions, to ask the right questions, and to propose some of the key solutions like were proposed here today to those problems. So I think that was a bit broader, but I think that's really the ultimate dream, is to help students realize their potential and to have the right kind of critical thinking skills to be able to find solutions for the Gambia, for the national development of the Gambia.
Thank you very much. We will now invite interventions from the floor.
System that is more organic. What I mean by that is more responsive and ready to engage on reforms, because the emerging issues are dynamic, and therefore a static education system will not be the kind of education system that will respond to the needs of society. The education system should be also looking at how to improve inclusivity, because there are people out there who might, for one reason or the other, not able to access the formal education system for various reasons. And there should be provision for these groups of people wherever they are, and there should be strategies to reach out to these people wherever they are, especially if their needs are not addressed by the current formal delivery system, the current curriculum that is available in the conventional setting. We need an education system in the form of creating multiple pathways of second chance for these people. There might be people who have never entered the formal learning before, and they need to enter some kind of learning, and especially if the form of learning that they need is more like vocational kind of learning, skill development that is different from the current formal system. There might be people who already had entered the system, and for various reasons they drop out along the way. There is need to provide some kind of re-entry for these people, so that the high rate of uneducated adults that we have, could be reduced significantly, because this way it will come back to improve the current education system that we have. Because if we have literate parents who know the value of education, they are more likely to support the learning of their children in many ways. So if anything, I would advocate for an education system that create multiple pathways and look at multiple delivery platforms.
The type of education I want to see the Gambia pursue is education for self-reliance. Education for self-reliance. An education system which provides skills, whatever it may be, for its young ones. Because one of the reasons why we are really struggling to improve or to move forward is dependency. And that dependency is as a result of lack of skills that can earn us a living. So education for self-reliance is what I'm advocating for. Particularly education in technical and vocational, that's one, and two, science and technology education. These are the areas that I really want to, not forgetting, of course, the normal academic work that we are doing, that they should all go side by side. But definitely, education for self-reliance is what will go a long way. An educational system that will unlock the talents that are found inside individuals. An educational system that will help to improve those talents so that people are able to live and improve the quality of lives of themselves and the community at large. Thank you.
Brilliant interventions. They've been very, very good, and we want to cut it here.